Okay, we're good to go.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. This Monday, December 12th meeting of the Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission is convening by a video conference pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 as extended on July 16th, 2022. This meeting is being recorded and all attendees are participating remotely via Zoom as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording, so please silence all phones and devices. Members of the public wishing to participate in the meeting must use their full name for Zoom access. If full names are not used, people will not be allowed to participate in discussion. The town reserves the right to remove any member of the public from the meeting who doesn't use a full name or who acts inappropriately. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. So I'm Mary Longacre, Chair of the Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Seth Engelborg.
Here.
I don't see Christy Ferrantella at this point. Megan, let me know if she joins. Dawn Holgate.
Here.
Wendy Hudson.
Here.
Dave Iverson.
Here.
I don't see Bert Johnson. Nat Lowell Nat's joined. Nat, say hello.
Can you hear me, Mary?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, because I can't make my gallery thing come up, so okay, thank you.
Okay. Barry Rector.
Here.
Joe Topham.
Here.
John Trudell.
Here.
Okay, and staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Megan Trudell.
Here.
Patrick Reed.
Here.
Risa Kwame from Mass DOT.
Here.
And do we have Leslie on board, or is it just you, Megan, from planning?
It is just me from myself and Patrick from Plus.
Great.
Okay.
And we have no other speakers anticipated today. So any vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. And I will move to approval of the agenda, which we are putting before the item 3 milestone and Pulpus path. So let's approve the agenda first. May I have a motion to do so? Or any comments?
So moved.
Thank you, Don.
Second.
Thank you, Joe, for seconding. Roll call vote, Seth Engelborg.
Aye.
Don Holgate.
Aye.
Wendy Hudson.
Aye.
Dave Iverson.
Aye.
Nat Lowell.
Aye.
Barry Rector.
Aye.
Joe Topham.
Aye.
John Trudell.
Aye.
And Mary Longacre, aye. Thank you all. Patrick, tell us about the path and intersection improvements, please.
Sure. Thanks for everybody's willingness to come on an atypical unscheduled or to jump on a scheduled meeting and at a atypical time. So thank you all. A quick requested action. Where we'll be moving in this presentation is hopefully to endorse a letter of support to MassDOT that acknowledges MassDOT's desire to improve the intersection of Milestone and Pulpus, which falls in state layout. That's necessary prior to permitting the town's proposed path along the north side of Milestone Road. We'll also be asking that letter to request MassDOT to take on oversight, design, and construction of the path and intersection projects. So basically the financial responsibility for the projects. And we'll also acknowledge further coordination on long-term solutions. I'll tell you that this particular item, there's been a lot of back and forth with MassDOT on it, including up to 10 minutes before this meeting. So we're still working to move this project forward. But I think we're all supportive of the idea that the town really wants to see its path project move forward and also really wants to see its intersection project move forward. A little bit of background. In January of 2022, the preliminary plans for a path on the north side of the road of Milestone Road between Monomoy and also the side path that exists for Pulpus were completed. I'll show you a graphic of that in a second here. So that's 25% design. And typically when you do 25% design, that's when you move into the permitting phase of the project, because sometimes that can change the design and you'll need that for the future elements, the 50, 75% full design, et cetera. When we coordinated with MassDOT, we were told that intersection improvements needed to be done at Pulpus and Milestone. And I'll just put the comment in here that the idea was that this is a high crash location for vehicles today. So it's one of their priorities. So they made improving the intersection or they made improving the path adding that additional path on Milestone, contingent on intersection improvements. That's all well and good, but it doubled the cost of the project, which is around $609,000 anticipated to be paid with excess Chapter 90 funds to around 1.2 million. And so that's not it's insignificant cost. And when we coordinated with MassDOT on next steps in December, they agreed to potentially finance improvements pending support from the community and a successful intersection control evaluation process or a waiver. So I'll provide some more detail here for you all. This is a general overview of the larger area. You can see there's 2 gaps in the bicycle network today as shown in the hashed blue, that gap on Orange Street, and then the gap that we're talking about today on the north side of Milestone Road between Monomoy right here. If you can see, can folks see my cursor? Give me a thumbs up. No? Okay. Well, the intersection of Monomoy is just one to the right from the roundabout there, and then the Pulpus bike path or side path, which is labeled on the diagram. If we were to go ahead and fill these 2 gaps, you'd have continuous access, safe access on the north side of the road without having to cross the Milestone Rotary, thanks to the enhancements that the land bank had put in on their properties a few years ago. A little closer up view of it here, you can see on the left side of your screen the intersection of Monomoy where the path is envisioned to start, and then on the right side of your screen where it's anticipated to terminate at that existing Pulpus path there. And shown in right in the center of your screen is the intersection in question that MassDOT has said needs to be improved for safety reasons. So on the south side of the roadway today, there is an existing side path, and you can see roughly in the hashed area. It's hard to do quickly in a non-3D environment, but you can see where the path would go, starting in that at Monomoy, and then all the way up past the intersection to Pulpus side path again. The reason why MassDOT is concerned about crossings at this intersection really has to do with the eastbound left turn movement. I know you can't see my cursor, so I'm not going to drag it around the screen, but imagine you're traveling eastbound on Pulpus, so on Milestone, in other words, from the left side of your screen all the way to the right side of your screen. And all of a sudden you decided you wanted to take a left turn. Well, in order to make that left turn, you're going to be focused on oncoming head-on traffic that's on Milestone moving in the westbound direction, but you're not necessarily looking and shifting your head all the way behind you to see if anyone's crossing the path. Now, in congesting conditions, it's a little bit safer because you're moving slowly and your cone of visibility at slow speeds increases. But at high speeds and off-peak conditions, this is a problem, right? Because most people are just going to make this movement if there's a gap as a one single continuous movement, which is not really that safe. And you can see there is demand at the intersection today. We have a picture on there of someone just recently in winter conditions, off-peak, biking season, crossing around the area. And adding the path on the north side of the road will kind of help with wayfinding and provide some other options as well. So I think it's a good project, generally speaking. MassDOT is looking at 3 different concepts related to intersection design. And this is where there's been quite a lot of back and forth leading up to, as I mentioned, just 10 minutes before this meeting, the desire to kind of show some different concepts. Important to note here, this is all happening in MassDOT's layout. So technically, they can go ahead and do whatever MassDOT wants to go ahead and do. However, it's important for the town, and I think that MassDOT and the state recognize that this is really a town project, the path, and they want whatever intersection improvements that move forward the town to be happy with those. So there are a couple different concepts on the table today. So the safety benefit of all these concepts is essentially the same, right? The idea is we're trying to slow turns here in off-peak conditions and improve the visibility of pedestrians, cyclists, and other rollers, and also reduce the potential for rear ends in the eastbound direction on Milestone. And to that end, recall that this is a high frequency crash intersection for MassDOT, right? And so that's why they're introducing the left turn pocket on the eastbound approach on Milestone Road. So you can see here in this concept 1, what they're doing is they're taking that existing angled area and turning it into a one-way condition where you aren't going to be able to make a left turn from Milestone onto Pulpus, but instead you'll have to come into that left turn pocket to really slow you down and make the angle a little bit more acute. And that the intent here is to increase visibility and slow cars down. However, if you're on Pulpus and you're looking to take a right turn onto westbound Milestone, you would have that lane available to you, and that would be stop controlled. It's sort of the lowest cost improvement that MassDOT has explored. And initially, when we had talked about it internally, as well as with MassDOT, the desire was to do something a little more extensive here, which is shown in concept 2. So here you basically remove the paving on that's shown in that slip lane there. And then it is essentially relocated, right? Those turn lanes from Pulpus are relocated and positioned in a way that tees up the intersection. The left turn pocket on Milestone is retained. However, in discussions with MassDOT, there was a sense that this option is not great because you're really, as a pedestrian or non-motorist, crossing at the intersection and crossing 3 lanes of traffic, which is, not ideal. And so there was this concept 3, which introduces a pedestrian refuge. And so when we looked at this one, there is a net increase in pavement, but I think it's important to note that a lot of the increase in pavement that you're seeing in options 2 and 3, and really 3 is the option that I think is the best sort of longer term, short-term option here. Or maybe the best way to call it is a midterm option, right? It increases the paving by roughly 4,000 to 4,200 square feet or so, somewhere in that range. Again, none of these have been designed. They're all concepts, but most of that's attributable to the pedestrian refuge that you see, as well as the gore striping, which separates traffic and provides just a little bit more separation and safety. Important to call out that for all of these concepts, the southbound left from Pulpus onto Milestone is constrained today, and it will continue to be constrained. And for that reason, we do have a roundabout in our long range transportation plan. However, we acknowledge that there were some challenges associated with the roundabout at Surfside and moving a project forward, understanding we want to move this path project forward, but we can't do so without an intersection improvement, means that probably the best decision to make would be to explore one of these 3 concepts. In terms of where MassDOT wants to go and what it will do, it's unclear. Again, the design, they're a big tent, so they have to move these 3 concepts. Really, it's 1 and 3 that are still on the table through their design process. Something like concept 1 can be achieved really quickly, which would allow the town to move forward with its path project more quickly. Concept 3 would take a little bit more time. The other thing that's still on the table that we've had sort of conversations with MassDOT about is taking on the construction of the path as well as the design of the path. And so that's included in in your suggested request for a letter of support. MassDOT has suggested that it could potentially take on these things, potentially bundle them, and in a way that makes these projects a lot more efficient, right? Because you're eliminating the middleman. If this were a town project and state layout, we would be going through the permitting project, working with our contractor. Instead, our contractor, or really the state's contractor at that point, would be working directly with MassDOT to move things forward. There are different ways they envision doing this. Their first thing on the table was using unspent funds that they had. They also had mentioned that if the project was slowed for whatever reason, we could investigate using our federal aid TIP funds, because we'll already be going through the MassDOT rigmarole of review already. So that's another option that's on the table. Between 2 weeks ago when the conversation started and this week, there's been some evolution and some desire to kind of make sure that we keep this on track, get town support, but also a desire to have some flexibility for where we're going here, coordinating with MassDOT, because they have a lot of internal reviews that they kind of need to manage. So again, the requested action is to endorse a letter of support that acknowledges MassDOT's desire to improve the intersection of Milestone and Pulpus. Again, we're not going to be able to get our path unless if that's done in some way, shape, or form, whether it be concept 1, which is sort of a smaller interim approach, or concept 3, which is more of a longer term approach that would, from a timeline perspective, might push out the project a little bit further. We would request that they take on oversight, design, and construction of both projects. I think that would be advantageous for the town, and it sounds like there's a willingness and consideration to do that on MassDOT's perspective, and also acknowledge further coordination is necessary on long-term solutions. What they're really looking for here is this concept that we're not walking away from the roundabout that's in our long-range transportation plan, but instead looking at ways to provide provide a more efficient improvement in the interim that will allow safe crossings while we continue to have that conversation with the public and other stakeholders about a roundabout's feasibility at this location. And with that, I'll turn it over to the chair for any kind of conversation.
Patrick, first question comes to mind. So if MassDOT takes over the design and the oversight, what are our opportunities for input into that design process?
You know, MassDOT will definitely coordinate with us as stakeholders, and ultimately what happens, I guess I'll kind of tactfully say that MassDOT is obviously concerned about what the town thinks and what our public thinks about its projects, right? It will want us involved in the project, and there'll be opportunities, I'm sure, for staff to be involved in the design review. But that being said, even if we were the lead or the support agency, it's still MassDOT's decision, right? This is MassDOT layout. So in some ways, this is a good opportunity for us to make sure that we're involved, because we sort of initiated the conversation rather than having them come in and say, well, we're going to fix a high crash location that we have on our books, which they could do. And I know that's kind of a nuanced response, but really the answer is it is MassDOT's roadway. They will want us to be involved, but ultimately decisions will be theirs. I'm sure they will hear us and during the design process if we have comments.
And second clarification, we are not today discussing design options or tweaks. Is that correct?
That's correct. You know, I will tell you, in these last 2 weeks, we've sort of, and really it's not even 2 weeks, in this last week and a half, where we've sort of had this conversation with MassDOT about how we move our path project forward. There was some desire to see concept 3 move forward, but I think, as I mentioned, they're a big tent. They have an intersection control evaluation process, other people on their traffic team who review things. I think there's some input on their end, and some questions about, well, why wouldn't we just pursue a roundabout here? Which would be a longer project, and it would involve higher costs. I mean, I think on our long range plan, that's costed out at 3 million something, and you can slap another 20% to 25% on that today. And of course, that would involve public engagement as well, right? And so I think whereas we thought initially concept 3 makes a lot of sense, there are folks at MassDOT who think, well, concept 1 is more efficient to implement. It'll help the path project schedule move forward more quickly. And it does offer safety improvements. And while we do that, it's lower cost, and it will allow us to kind of think about what the best approach is for a larger improvement down the line. I want to be very direct. I've been very clear with folks over at MassDOT when I've had conversations, and I know other folks on the calls have been as well, that, you know, a roundabout, from my professional perspective, it does make sense to explore. I think we'd want to study it, and it is in our long range transportation plan, but we need to be sensitive to our community. And because this project is being kind of rushed for good and bad reasons. I mean, it's rushed in the sense that, you know, our path project was linked to the intersection improvement, which became a little bit of a challenge and a cost challenge for the town. But at the same time, there are opportunities, right? MassDOT's offering to help fund some of these things. So that's a good thing, right? But I think where we want to be careful is we don't want to, you know, we've been very direct with MassDOT and saying, like, if we want to explore something that's in our long range transportation plan, it requires more conversation and would be a larger discussion based on previous current events and conversations we've had about roundabouts. And I think they understand that, which is why they think maybe we can move forward concept 1 a little bit more quickly, or concept 3 in the interim here, and then we can come back and have that continuing conversation with the town down the line. I don't think they'd invest in either 1 or 3 with the expectation that we're going to turn around in 5 years and build a roundabout. I just want to be kind of clear about that.
All right, and Patrick, could you briefly say just a little bit more about the source of funds for this project? I think that is changing, or
yeah, the conversation is evolving. So MassDOT has certainly committed to use their own internal resources on the intersection improvements, both the design and the construction. Last week, we heard that MassDOT would be willing to potentially take on the costs of the path as well. We met with them again just before this call today. And I think that conversation was sort of evolving again to say, well, you know, maybe you guys could use your tip funds on it if it ends up being concept 3 that you go with, because that's going to take a little bit longer to implement and longer to design. And so there are a lot of contingencies at play here. And ultimately the timeline is sort of their timeline, not necessarily ours, because they're the ones who are going to be approving and making decisions about which concepts should move forward with comment from the town. But again, I can't stress enough, this is state layout. So ultimately, whatever they want to do here, is sort of subject to their own discretion.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Moore, go ahead. So knowing that we have just a few minutes to wrap this up, are there comments from commissioners for further details, or are people ready to move ahead with a letter of support as Patrick has requested? Nat?
Mary, yes. Hi, Madam Chair. Patrick, can you hear me all right? Sorry, I don't see you there. Thank you for what you've done. This is unbelievable to get this to to move this forward. Can you hear me all right, Patrick?
Yes, can hear you.
Okay, so Patrick, when you start, let's just leave the whole roundabout thing for the other 6 locations that need them way worse than this. I have a quick question on the is it going to be a little spot for vehicles stopping in Sconset Road to turn left? In other words, are we going to have like a place for the car to sort of sit?
Nat,
where
pardon me, I'm going to interrupt. We're not doing design questions.
Okay.
We have a limited
All right.
amount of time. It's certainly something you can get into with Patrick.
All right, so what are we looking to do? Just to support either 1 or 3? Patrick, is that what you want?
I think what MassDOT is really looking for in this is a request for support for the intersection improvements. The town is willing to have, there's 2 things, really. They're looking for the town to say, yes, we're willing to see an intersection improved here so we can have our path. And yes, we're okay with you funding it. And then that's point 1B, I guess. And then point 2 would be, yes, we're okay with additional paving on Milestone, including that left turn pocket, because there is a safety consideration. But you know what? I think Mary hit the nail on the head here. Essentially, these are concept designs. They have not even reached 25% yet, and MassDOT is a big thing. So in order to move sort of the conversation forward to design and get them to commit to financing, I think this is the first step to say, yes, we are interested in you pursuing this further, and yes, we are okay with the safety improvement that's shown.
Got it. Very good.
Thank you, Nat. Dave?
I know we're pressed for time. Just to be clear, Mary, we're just you're looking for us to show support for the change, and then as the process moves along, we will hopefully have a chance to talk about maybe some design tweaks, right? But all we're looking for today is whether we support the general concept. Is that accurate, Patrick?
Madam Chair, if I may. Is that all right to?
Oh, I think we lost her.
Yes. Yes. The answer is yes. A general request to support moving forward to design improvements for the intersection, knowing that these 3 concepts were looked at, and maybe one of the concepts that advance would be Water 3.
And will we have the opportunity to have input on the final concept at the end, Patrick, or no?
Again, yes, there will be opportunities for the town and the region to comment on the design. However, I want to stress this is MassDOT layout. So ultimately, they will, what they choose to pursue in advance is not necessarily up to us. But I think that MassDOT is generally deferential to its municipalities when it's proposing an improvement.
Thank you.
But yes, I can come back and present things as the concepts advance in the design process.
So I think we lost Mary in the process here. Correct, Megan? Yeah.
And Megan.
I'm not seeing her, but I know 5 of us, or 5 of you and myself, need to jump off here shortly for the planning board meeting. So I would suggest maybe getting what support or motion Patrick may need and wrapping it up.
All right. And if I may, I just would like to know if you're all clear too, that maybe another thing to make sure that's in this letter, if you're so designed to want to do it, is to agree to the additional payment that may need to take place to facilitate the process. And that way it gives MassDOT that higher degree of confidence that they can move ahead with things. So that, I think that should also be included in there as well too. Is that a fair assumption, Patrick?
Yeah, I think it's helpful. I know the town has a
Okay.
bylaw that says it doesn't want necessarily any additional paving for capacity purposes. This project is adding some paving. It's minimal from my perspective. It's about 4,000, like I said, in concept 3. And that is really intended to support safety. It's not actually providing additional capacity. So I would be very direct.
Is it- And is that 4,000 a net gain, or is that, I mean, are you taking into account what you're losing with the addition of additional green space by removing the that dreaded turn there?
Yeah, the net, it is a delta, right? So our contractor, I had them assess it out based on the relocation of the existing turn lanes on Pulpus and also the slight widening to provide the separation as well as the pedestrian refuge. And that's for concept 3. I don't know what the net change is for concept 1. And again, it could change depending on how their design process advances.
Okay.
I can tell you that there isn't an interest in significantly improving capacity. The sole reason and rationale for holding our path permitting up is safety. This is a high crash location on MassDOT's books for motorists, and they're also concerned about that movement I mentioned for pedestrians who would be and bicyclists who would be crossing.
All right.
It looks
So,
like we have Mary back with us via phone.
you got her?
Yes, I'm on the phone. If Barry can continue to share the meeting, I don't have any video or any way of telling who's raising their hand or anything like that.
Yeah, Mary, we're pretty close to a motion at this point. So
And
Patrick, do you
Barry,
wanna-
excuse me.
Yeah, sorry.
Madam Chair, I just have a quick comment. I know we're really pressed for time. I just wanted to state that, number one, I'm all in favor of this. I appreciate the work Patrick did. Number two, I think the roundabout is the ultimate long-term plan. However, I think the number 3 gets us closer to the roundabout by eliminating that one, the right-hand turn. But my biggest concern is that we're putting a lot of money towards something that's a temporary, and 2 previous projects, the L8 National Grid projects, where we increased the width of a pole and the height of the pole, only to have it as a short-term interim while we're replacing underground cables. I think that's going to kind of take the pressure off and be there for a long time. The same with the Tesla batteries that we approved instead of having that potential 3rd cable line. I'm just fearful that by doing a temporary, we could get stuck with this for the next 20 years. And that's all I want to say. I know it's a quick meeting and we have to get to our other planning board meeting, but I just wanted to note that. But I am in favor of this. It gets us going, and I appreciate the work Patrick has done to get us here.
All right, so are you all clear on the direction that we're about to head at this point, or do you need Patrick to recap? I'm not hearing anyone say they want to recap. So I'll take a motion at this point that we approve the letter that will need to be sent to Mass DOT with the things that we've talked about today. If you need a recap, just let me know, but I'll take that motion.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you.
I'll-
And do I hear a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, did you catch that, Megan? You did, okay. All right, Megan, you know what? I need help with the roll call vote. I'm sorry, I'm having a little difficulty seeing you all on the screen here because I'm on a different device.
That's okay. I can go through. So we will start
Please.
with, I have Joe Topham,
Aye.
Chair Mary Longacre,
Aye.
Dave Iverson,
Aye.
Nat Lowell,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg,
Aye.
Wendy Hudson,
Aye.
Don Holgate,
Aye.
John Trudell,
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella,
Aye.
Vice Chair Barry Rector.
Aye,
I think I got everyone.
sounds about right.
Okay.
Beautiful, all right. Thank you, everyone. And I know Patrick will keep us updated. You'll forgive us. We're going to cut this meeting very short because we're cutting right into a planning board meeting as of the moment. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time.
Make a
Have a
motion to
lovely
adjourn.
day. Please, if you would. And do I hear a
That's my
second?
motion.
Second.
All right. I'm going to take this. Okay, now roll call. We have to do it. Yeah, go ahead, Megan. Do your magic.
Okay, John Trudell,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg,
Aye.
Wendy Hudson,
Aye.
Mary Longacre,
Aye.
Dave Iverson,
Aye.
Nat Lowell,
Aye.
Don Holgate.
Aye.
Now I'm losing track. Everyone's jumping all over the screen. Who did, Barry
Aye.
Rector?
Aye.
Who did I miss? I missed someone. I'm sure of it.
Me.
Christy Parentella.
Aye.
There we go. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely day. We're signing off.
Thank
Thanks,
you
bye.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thanks, everyone.
Patrick, good job.